All right, so now we're going to continue where we left off, talking about the track types. And the track types we're going to dive into right now are the MIDI and instrument tracks. Actually, MIDI tracks are they're pretty easy to explain. Basically, they are just for MIDI devices, either external or internal. So if I go over here, I create a new track, and I've got this MIDI track here. And you can see the only main difference really is that it doesn't say mono or stereo, and it says ticks instead of samples. Actually, I think all of them have been saying ticks, and that's because of a setting that I have in here. So that's fine. And then it's just MIDI. So I'm just going to create this track. And if we look here, here's my MIDI track. And a couple things you'll notice is that first of all, the meter looks different. The fader has different numbers on it. It does not have an I, but it does have a record. And it's got solo and mute, all that stuff. But look up here. There's no inserts and there's no sends. And the reason why there are no inserts or sends is because MIDI is not audio. Now, I'm not sure how much Ryan talked to you about MIDI in Mod 1. I'm not really, actually, I've kind of forgotten how much they're doing with MIDI and audio and stuff in Mod 1 these days. But MIDI is not audio. And that's a really important thing to remember and keep in mind, is that MIDI is not audio. MIDI is not audio. MIDI is not audio. I can't say it enough times. What MIDI does is it allows devices to communicate together. It's an old protocol for allowing musical instruments to communicate. It's very, very basic. It's just using on and off and numbers 1 through 128. It's very, very small. It was made back in the 1980s. And remember, we talked about this earlier, computers were not super powerful back then. So MIDI had to be lightweight so that it could travel between digital instruments and allow them to talk to each other. And the digital instruments back then were also not powerful. These days, we can use USB, FireWire, USB-C, all this stuff for things to talk to each other, and they can talk to each other, like they can actually talk to each other. Whereas MIDI is more like just commands, like do this, and it does it, and then do this, and it does it, do this, and it does it. So it's not powerful, and it's not audio. It's only just communication. So you can record, edit, and play MIDI data, but you can't hear anything on that track directly. There's no insert effects because there's no audio. So we don't have anything in here. If you pull this up and you say to me, Tony, where do I put my insert effects? I'm gonna be like, facepalm, because you have not been paying attention at all. You haven't listened to me. You haven't been paying attention. I feel really hurt, to be honest. I think I might cry. Okay, so please do not come to me with questions about MIDI and audio, because they're not. They just don't coexist. All right, MIDI is not audio. So we don't really use very many MIDI tracks in Pro Tools unless you have external synthesizers. If you have a hardware synthesizer, you can use a MIDI track. But for the most part, we're going to be using instrument tracks. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to keep this MIDI track here, but I'm going to pull up a new track. We're going to go over here and we're going to go in here. We're going to go to stereo and we're going to set this to instrument track. Boom. It's in ticks and we're going to give this a name like we did before. We're just going to call it synth, whatever. So I got that. There we go. And now we have a new track here. And this track, now you'll see that this track looks more like the audio tracks that we've had before. So if I put it next to I'm going to put it next to my audio track here. Actually, let's, put it next to my audio track. And you're going to see here, it's got stereo, so it's got 2 pan pots. It's got the record, solo, mute, just like the MIDI track does. But look at our meter and our fader. The meter and the fader look more like the audio track than they do the MIDI track. The MIDI track goes 0 to 127. This goes infinity to 12, right? And there's a 0 here in the middle for unity. So the instrument track, this fader is actually more like an audio track or an aux track than it is like a MIDI track. And if we go up top, we can see, look, there's insert effects and send effects again. Sends, inserts, and sends. So it acts more like an audio track or an aux track. As a matter of fact, it acts exactly like an aux track because an instrument track is a combination of a MIDI track and an aux track. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, we will be talking about this in more detail later on, but right now what you need to know is that you can record and edit MIDI data and it plays back audio. So we're going to record and edit MIDI data, but we're going to play audio, and it's a combination of MIDI and aux tracks, and we can use insert effects. Okay, so MIDI tracks, no insert effects. Instrument tracks, insert effects. Okay, MIDI track, no insert effect. Where can I? Oh, now it doesn't. Okay, and then instrument track, no instrument tracks, insert effects. Insert effects. Okay. Okay. So what does this look like if I record something into this instrument track, the synth track here? Well, what I'm going to do, I'm going to show you that. So I'm going to go over here. I'm going to put in the synth. Let's put in a different synth. Let's use. Well, actually, I don't have my hard drive on right now. So let's see if this will work. Actually, let's see. Where are you? Instrument. Let's see if this will work. Pigments. I'm not sure it will work because I don't have my sample drive on, but I think it will. Okay, there we go. Cool. All right. Awesome. Okay, so got this here. Let's go ahead and use a pad. Whoa. These are very bright pads. There we go. Whatever, I don't know what key this song is in. So we're just gonna go ahead and we'll just use these sounds here. So it's a pretty cool sound, and what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna hit record. No tracks record enable. I'm gonna hit record enable on my track, and then I'm gonna hit record. Okay, so I played some notes in there. The notes for the most part sound fine with the song, but there were some mistakes in there. And if I go in here and I look at this, we can see, look, this looks different from everything before. So let me just put this synth up here next to my bass. There we go, cool. And I'm gonna make these smaller so I can see everything a little bit better. I don't need them to be big, I just need them to be there. Cool, all right. So in here I have my MIDI. I'm going to go ahead and make this bigger so we can see all these notes and stuff. I'm going to put it into notes mode. Now I can see everything together there. And you can see how different this looks from the audio. Instead of looking like, I'm going to turn my grid off because I don't want to see my grid. Instead of looking like the waveforms here, it looks like these lines. And I can take these lines and I can move them around and do stuff what I want to do with them. Boom. So here, let's do this. This stuff all sounds pretty good. Still sounds good. That one did not sound good. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and delete this one. I'm going to start this one over here like this. Boom. Great. Okay. I'm going to just start my playback here. All right, and again, delete that one and move this one over here. And this is MIDI. This is what we can do with MIDI data, okay? So how did I get there? Well, don't worry about it too hard right now, Smalls, because this is not the point, is not to teach you how to do MIDI stuff in here, and I need to keep moving because we have a lot of stuff more to cover. We will talk about it. There are whole lessons devoted to MIDI. I promise you we will get back to MIDI stuff, okay? But right now, if you want to learn about MIDI and how to get into MIDI and how to do MIDI, talk to me in private, or we can take a look at some stuff on the internet. But right now, there's a method, trust me, and the method does not include MIDI right now. I'm just literally showing you what MIDI is and how it's different from audio. So in here, so now I've got my MIDI clips down here, and you can hear if I play it, it's gonna sound different. I mean, it's gonna sound like audio, And I can put some effects on it. Let's put a filter on here. There we go, nice little filter. Cool, okay. So we can put some effects on it. So we're hearing the audio, but we're seeing the MIDI data here, all right? So you can see it's pretty different from everything else, but it sounds like audio, okay? And that's the big difference between an instrument track. An instrument track, it allows you to go in and edit the notes and do all sorts of stuff like that, but we're hearing the audio same as everything else, okay? And if you're making beats in other programs, you've seen all this before, you know what's going on. You're with me on this. You just maybe don't know how to do it in Pro Tools, but again, I promise you we're gonna come back. We have a whole lesson devoted to how to do MIDI in Pro Tools, but that's not today. Today is just, this is an instrument track. We're just broad view, broad strokes right now, okay, Smalls? So trust me, we'll come back to it. Okay, awesome. All right, so what we're gonna do now is go to the next page here. This is our track symbols. So if you're looking in Pro Tools, there's a couple of ways to see what the track types are. First of all, when you make a new track, if you don't name it, it's gonna name it what it is. It's gonna name audio track, aux track, master fader, VCA, stuff like that. What sound bank or synth was that? That was Pigments. It's from Arturia. And then you got MIDI tracks, instrument tracks, but they all have little logos down here on the bottom. So this one here has a little wave file, looks like an audio wave. The aux track has a little arrow pointing down. The master track has a sigma symbol. The VCA has a couple faders. The MIDI track has a little MIDI clip, and the instrument track has a keyboard there. And you can see those are on the tracks down here at the bottom. Right down here. So there's my audio tracks. These are my aux tracks. This is my instrument track. This is my another audio track. This is a MIDI track, and this is a master fader. And so that's how you can see them. But you can also see by looking at it like what it is. For example, if it doesn't have inputs or input monitor record, I know it's an aux channel. If it looks like this, it's a master fader. And the more you look at this stuff, the more you kind of are using Pro Tools, the quicker you're going to be at just seeing what things are. Now you'll see the same little symbols are over here on the left-hand side in my track show hide view. This track window over here has the same little symbols. So I look in here and say, oh, that's an aux track. Oh, that's an instrument track. Oh, that's a MIDI track right here. So we can just see that's a sigma track right there. That's a master track. We can just look at it and see, oh, that's what it is, okay? So as you get better at Pro Tools, you'll start to see these things more clearly and really get quick at identifying track types and stuff like that. All right, so a couple of shortcuts here real quick. And again, I was washing dishes. I forgot to put the camera over my keyboard. Don't worry, I will remember next time. It might not be today though at this point. But create a new track. Shortcuts for creating a new track, Command Shift In. And if you're using Windows, it's probably Control Shift In. Usually with Mac and Windows, you just substitute Command for Control to go back and forth between those. So if it says Control something on Windows, you can just use Command something on Mac. And if it says Command something on Mac, it's usually Control something on Windows, just so you know. So in Mac, it's Command Shift In. So if I hit Command Shift In, that's for a new track, and here it pops up this window. And now there's all these things here for using your shortcuts to navigate around that screen. You are not going to appreciate this right now. I guarantee you. Unless you've already been using Pro Tools for a while, you do not appreciate how dope this is. But let me just show you real quick. Let me just educate you into how cool this is right now. So I've got this here. If I want to make a stereo aux track, which is one of the most common tracks to make, I now just hit Command right and Command down and hit Enter, and I made an aux track. Boom. Let me show you how fast that can be. Command Shift In, right, down, Enter, boom. I just made a track. It's awesome. This works so quick, and it's great. It's one of the fastest ways to make tracks on any DAW that I've ever seen before. But you gotta learn how to use it. You gotta practice it. The first time I saw it, it blew my mind. I had already been using Pro Tools for about, I don't know, 7 or 8 years. before I learned that shortcut. And my friend was just like, I can't believe you've never seen that. I was like, what are you talking about? That's amazing. So that's the shortcuts there. I'm not going to spend a whole bunch of time on it, but it's all laid out right here, this instructions here, because I do want to get us into Zoom and get us chatting about some stuff. All right, clips. Clips hold the data in Pro Tools. It can be audio data or MIDI data. Clips holds the data in Pro Tools, audio or MIDI, and there's the clip list on the right to the edit window, which I showed you earlier. So for example, if I look in here, if we look at my edit window, these are all clips. All these. I've got this MIDI clip here, I've got some audio clips over here, I've got audio clips here. They're all clips. And if we look over here in the clips list, down here we can see I've got a MIDI clip down here, my synth one, and I've got a whole bunch of audio clips here. And they've got the same symbols that they had in the tracks. So I've got little audio waveforms here, and I've got a little MIDI device here for our MIDI clip. Okay, I can take these and I can move them around. When I drag it over, you notice it does not make a new clip here, but if I take this clip and I shorten it like that, oh wait, are we not gonna, come on, let's see here, show auto created, there we go, boom. Oh wow, so many more clips now. Okay, so you always want to show the audio created clips, in my opinion, but Pro Tools for some reason defaults to don't. Okay, so now if we look down here at the bottom of my screen, a little bit hard to see, but there it is down there. Now I've got another clip that says Synth 02, and if I drag it over, see it doesn't change it, but if I trim it like this, now it changes it to Synth 03. I can get rid of them, but the clips I just made stay in my timeline. Same thing with this bass guitar here. If I click on it, it's going to take me to my bass guitar here. And if I highlight this, and let's say I highlight it and hit Command E to separate this into 3 clips now, boom. Now we've got bass guitar 2, 3, and 4. Now check this out. This one here is bold. It's highlighted in bold, right? Well, that means that it's the original audio file on my computer. This one here is not highlighted, just normal type, normal text. This means that it is an edit. So if I go in here and I highlight this and I delete it, now we have 2 more edits here. And every time I do something, it's going to change that. It's going to move things around and make them a little bit different. Like this, like that, okay? And you can see it's doing it every single time I do it. If I hit Command Z to undo this, we can get rid of all these clips. But basically, every time you edit something in Pro Tools, it's going to make a new clip. It's going to change your clips list over here. And in order to make sure that you're seeing those changes, just go over here to Clips, go to Show Auto-Created Clips. Make sure that you're showing your auto-created clips there, and so it'll show you all the different clips. Now, what that means is that your clips folder, your clips window over here is going to get just cluttered with so many things. I'm okay with that. Honestly, I'm okay. I like to see everything that it's doing, and then I'm going to show you later on how to clean that up and how to get rid of some of those clips later. But in the meantime, we just want to see, here's all our clips. If I haven't done anything with the clips, I can actually heal these back together. It's not something that you see many people do often, but it is something that's useful. Go over here, hit Command H, and we'll heal them and heal those clips up. So the clips are now healed together there. All right, so now what we're going to do here is take a look at what I can do with the, here, if we look in here, clip selection. So I've got different tools in here, and the tools are a couple pages later. And again, we're just kind of going through these quickly. I'm not actually stopping on these individually yet. We are going to talk in more detail about clips. We're going to talk in more detail about the edit modes, and we're going to talk in more detail about the tools. Today is not a deep dive. Today is just the broad strokes of things, so you can just see the broad strokes. But what we've got here is, up here we've got our different tool types up here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select my selector tool, and I can highlight different parts of my clip right here. And with my selector tool, I actually have a couple things. So I got my click selection. If I click and drag down here, yeah, today's just an introduction, just like the title says. So the clip selection here is click and drag. It highlights that section of the clip. Double click selects the entire clip or space between the clips, and the triple click selects the entire track. So check this out. This is pretty cool. What I can do is I can highlight and drag it. It just selects that. I can delete this out here like that. I can hit delete. It will delete it out. I'm going to hit Command Z to put it back. If I want to select the entire clip, let's see, let's just do this. I'm going to go ahead and delete here. Let's do this. I'm going to go ahead and duplicate this playlist. All right, so I'm going to delete a couple things out of here so we have a couple different clips going on. Now, if I do this, check this out. I'm going to close this out so we don't need to see that. And if I double click right here, it'll select that entire clip. I can just double click with my selector tool. See, I've got my selector tool selected up here. And then down here, I just double click on any one of these, 1, 2, and it selects it. I can even select the space between my clips, the empty space, 1, 2, it selects it. I can triple click and it will select everything on the track. 1, 2, 3, selects everything. See that? I'm going to do it one more time. 1, 2, 3, boom, and I'm just counting it when I'm clicking so you can just see how many times I'm clicking. This is something that the other programs don't do, like Logic. I don't think Logic does it. I know Ableton Live doesn't do it, and I love it about Pro Tools. When I'm really flying around in Pro Tools, I got my Smart Tool turned on and I'm moving things around, I'm like fading clips out and I'm like trimming stuff around. And I'm like, oh, I want to do something to this one. Oh wait, I didn't want to do something to that one. So I can just like, 1, 2, 3, I can highlight everything, I can move them all like that, and I don't even have to touch it. Look, Mom, no hands. I'm just using one hand here. This hand is not doing anything. I'm just 1, 2, 3, I'm just clicking and dragging it around like that, which is pretty cool there. I can do that. There you go. Awesome. So this is a really nice way to use this here. And I highly recommend becoming fluent using your selector tool. It's something that's going to take a while for you to get used to. And again, unless you've been doing a lot of editing with Pro Tools and Logic and stuff like that, you're not gonna appreciate this quite yet, but trust me, one day you will appreciate it. You're gonna be like, whoa, that's actually really dope. All right, let's talk about our shuffle modes here. There are other tools up here. We're gonna talk about those later, and actually in just a few minutes here. But first, let's talk about our different edit modes here. The edit modes, we've got 4 edit modes, and what this does, these edit modes have to do with how you move your clips around the window. So I'm going to go ahead and put on my Smart Tool again, which is all 3 of my main tools. And let's put it in shuffle mode, and check this out. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to color these different colors so you can see what's going on here. I'm just going to color this one this, I'm going to color this one this, I'm going to color this one, whatever. Okay, so I got 4 different colors here. If I am in shuffle mode, what it does is it gets rid of any empty space in your timeline. So if I highlight, let's see, if I click it and I drag it to the left, see how it snaps in? If I drag it over here, see how it's snapping to these clips, the left or the right? Boom, and I can't do anything else. But if I'm in slip mode is this one, I can click and I can drag it around like that. So I can move it around smoothly. But if I'm in shuffle mode, it's gonna lock it in to the clips next to it. I can do that with all of these. So it's basically getting rid of all that empty space in there. Now, if I use shuffle mode and I delete a clip, watch this. This is pretty cool. I'm just gonna highlight this one here. Let me go ahead and put this back so it's not following my timeline. Okay, so I click on this one. Now watch happens. I'm gonna hit delete, and it just got rid of the purple, it just got rid of the red one. So now the green one just smashes up against the purple one. Now, this is something that Logic can do. Ableton Live cannot do this, and I really miss it sometimes. It's actually a really cool feature in Pro Tools and in Logic. Shuffle mode. Again, if I wanna just move these around, I can reorder these just by dragging them around. See how the red one's over here now? If I want to put the red one between the purple and the blue, I just move it over here between the purple and the blue. And I move the purple one over like that. So I can move these around like this, and it works really easily. That's shuffle mode. Now, if I use slip mode to do the same thing, watch what happens. It just puts it on top of it. It doesn't move anything, and there it is. It's gone now. So it's not changing my locations around. Right? It's just dragging and dropping it on top of something. So whenever a clip is put on top of another clip, you can't hear the clip that's like underneath it or the clip it's covering up. So you're hearing what you're seeing, basically. Spot mode is, if I click on it, if I click on a clip, it gives me a dialog that says, where do you want to put this? Oh, okay, let's put this at, let's put this at 3 minutes. Boom. I move it over and it comes to 3 minutes. See that 3 minutes right there? There it is. So that's what spot mode does. Spot mode is great for sound to picture, kind of film or TV, stuff like that, where you need to put things in an exact place. That's what spot mode is really good for. I've never seen somebody use spot mode for making music. That's not to say that you can't use spot mode for making music. That's just to say I never have seen anybody use spot mode to make music. So I don't use it. I never use spot mode. I know what it does. I know what it's kind of cool for, but realistically, I never use it when I'm producing music. And then I have grid mode over here. And grid, what it does is it snaps things to a grid. So if I go over here and I turn my grid so we can see it, this little button right there, I'm gonna put my grid into, let's put my button into bars like this, so now we can see the bars here. If I zoom in, we can see the bars. What I'm gonna do is this. If I click and drag it when it's in grid mode, like that. Hold on a second. Let's put this into bars and there we go. Why are we not? It's because we can't see all my bars. There we go. We're zoomed so far out. There we go. Okay. We were zoomed so far out we couldn't actually see it moving to the grid. So here we go. So here it is. It's snapping to the grid. These are my bars right here. And let me see. What does this set to? Oh, okay. I see. So snapping to my bars. And if I make the grid smaller, I make it smaller right up here. And I pull this down, quarter note, boom, 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 and I can move it to the quarter note, whatever. This is great for when you're making, you're producing music in Pro Tools, when you're moving around stuff. And we're gonna get deeper into this and how to use these different modes, these different grid modes and stuff like that. But it's really, in this song, it's not going to make a whole lot of sense to use grid mode because my song is not recorded to the grid and the Pro Tools is not set up for the grid with this one. So it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to use grid mode in this song, but that's what grid mode does. It just locks it in. And we also have relative grid mode here. If I click, and I don't know if you noticed this, but if I zoom in, you can see if I hold down on the little arrow here, I can choose between absolute and relative. Absolute is green or blue, relative is purple. And so if I am in relative grid mode, let's say I have a clip that is between the grids. Well, if I'm in absolute grid mode, I move it and it snaps to the blue grid lines there. You can see it snap to the blue grid lines. But if I use relative, it's going to keep its relative position to the grid lines. Move it. See that? It stays between the grid lines. And again, this is something that's really cool if you know why it's really cool. And if you've never really made music with Pro Tools, don't worry about it. Just use absolute grid mode. Use the blue one. Just keep it in the blue, the green one. Yeah, no, sorry, blue. Just keep it in the blue one and just use that. And don't worry about it. The relative grid mode is awesome if you know about grid modes and you've used them for a while. All right, oops, wrong button. Okay. I'm going to put my bass guitar back to where it was. Actually, no, I'm not. I'm going to keep it how it is right now. And I'm going to use slip mode to move these around so we can just see them here. And like I said, these are pretty giant clips right now. I'm using broad strokes again. But let's go back into our notes and take a look at this. And we can see here shuffle, slip, spot, grid, and I've got a little function key next to it. That is your function keys across the top of your keyboard. We're going to have to talk about how to set those up for Pro Tools because they are not set up for Pro Tools right now. And that's fine. They're set up for your computer. Unless you're using a Windows machine, then maybe they're set up for Pro Tools. But I know for a fact that on a Mac, unless you've done it, then they're not set up for Pro Tools, and you probably haven't done it. So we're going to have to come back and talk about that. But the function keys, if you are set up for Pro Tools, those are your shortcuts for those different modes. Function F1, F2, F3, F4, and I can switch between the modes. There we are. You can see up here I can switch between them using my function keys, 1, 2, 3, and 4. Function 1, 2, 3, and 4, like that. And if I want to switch between my grid modes, I just hit the F4 key repeatedly. Okay, so you can use it as shortcuts. It's great for shortcuts, but it's you have to do some stuff to your computer to get it to work because the Apple OS uses the function keys for different stuff. All right, next and finally, well, almost finally, is tools. And again, with the tools, we're going to do a deep dive into the tools, maybe even tomorrow, I think, and really talk about the tools in detail. So I just want to give you an overview of the tools right now. There are three main tools. That's trim, selector, and grabber. There are other tools here. We've got the zoom tool, and we've got the scrub tool, and the pencil tool, and we're going to talk about those, but not today. We've got the trim tool, the selector tool, and the grabber tool. And these are your three main tools. And again, you can select these with your F keys, function keys across the top, F6, F7, F8. Yep, F6, F7, F8, like that. And the trim tool, what this does is it allows us to trim the audio. Basically, it allows us to adjust the start and end points of our audio. So there we go. I just put it into slip mode, and you can see the lines turn blue or they turn gray. So grid mode is blue, slip mode is gray. That means they're off right there. So got this here set up. Boom. There we go, like that. And then I've got my selector tool. I can highlight that, selector tool. And then if I want my grabber tool, I can use the grabber tool and move that around. So the trim tool basically edits the start and end points of the clip. The selector tool allows me to allows me to select things, and the grabber tool allows me to grab and move things around. And that's what the three tools do. All together, those tools are the smart tool, and the smart tool, what it does is it basically uses them all at the same time. There is a way to get a smart tool-like functionality out of Logic, and Ableton Live just does it automatically. So they're basically all the same, and where you put your mouse on here changes how you're using the tool, which is actually different for each one of them, but what can you do? So here's the clip layout. I've made a little beef cut for you here. For the layout, smart tool, clip layout, fade in, fade out, trim, selector, grabber, all that stuff there, crossfade if you've got two clips next to each other. So let me just show you that real quick. In here, we're gonna use this one, boom, boom, boom. If I wanna fade it up, I can fade it up. Why are you not showing me my fades? There we go. And I can fade it over like this. There's the fade out. I can, once I've got this in here, I can adjust the fades, and I can also go in here and adjust what the fade looks like that, how it's fading. Okay, so that's that there. I can get rid of it by clicking with the grabber tool and hitting delete. If I'm down in the middle, it's the grabber tool. If I'm up top, it's the select tool. And if I'm on the side in the middle, it is the trim tool. And if I have two of these right next to each other, if I put it into shuffle mode and just slam it right there, if I have two of them next to each other, I can also create a crossfade. Oops, not that, this. There's a crossfade for you. So the smart tool is super cool once you get used to it. It does take some getting used to. I didn't use a smart tool for about the first, again, 6 or 7 years that I was using Pro Tools. I didn't know about the smart tool. I never had noticed it was up there. It's always been there. I'd never noticed it was up there. And I was in a studio. I was working on Pro Tools in a session, and the guy was like, whoa, you don't use the smart tool? And I was like, no, what is that? And he showed it to me. I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. And the thing was, I was using Pro Tools in such a way that I was using it so quick, I didn't really need the smart tool. But then once he showed it to me, I put my head down and I learned how to use it, which actually slowed me down for a minute. But once I got used to it, it was much faster. So I highly recommend that you use the smart tool. And if you've never seen anything about it before, well, there you go. And don't worry, we will come back and be talking about it. And you're going to see me talking about it a lot during these classes. All right, cool. That's our tools. You get the F numbers here, F6, F7, F8. And the smart tool combines all three. And the smart tool, to get to the smart tool, the shortcut is F6 and F7 or F7 and F8 or F6 and F8. Any two of those will get you to the smart tool. All right, finally, here's some stuff about session file backups. If you want to read through that, you can. It's not something we need to talk about too much, just what they're good for. Pro Tools crashes when you decide you don't like a change, something like that. Oh, use the Smart tool? Nice. All right. Things you can't undo in Pro Tools. This is a little bit annoying, but here it is. There's nothing we can do about this. You cannot undo a track deletion. If you delete a track by accident, you can't get that track back. That track is gone. Bye. See ya. Good riddance. Okay. You cannot change. You can't undo a routing change. If you change the routing from one track to another, you can't undo it. And if you delete a insert, you can't undo it. If you put an insert in, if you put a plugin in, you can't undo it. So if there's these things, you have to be aware of these. And this is when your backups come in really handy. And I'll show you how to do that. Oh, Thomas T says, I always use a Smart tool on. Great. That's awesome. Yep. Fantastical. All right. Let's go over here to save, copy, in. Okay. This is something that my students get. Yep, cool. Yep, we'll talk in Zoom. So this is a thing that sometimes students get a little bit confused by because I talk about it so much. And it's something you're going to see it literally on every single test because it's so important. But I want you to understand you're not going to use it all the time. But it's so important that when you do need to use it, you need to use it. And you're going to need to use it quite a bit in school and in the real world. So I need you to learn it, but I don't need you to use it all the time. I need you to know when to use it, when not to use it. Okay? This is save, copy, in. And save, copy, in is in my Pro Tools folder over here. If I go to Pro Tools File, I do save, copy, in right here. Boom. And now I bring up save, copy, in. And what this does is it's going to make sure that all of my audio files are in one location. So essentially what this does is it makes a copy of everything and moves it to a new folder. Different from Logic or Ableton Live. Logic and Ableton Live, they only find stuff that's not in the folder currently and they move it in. Pro Tools literally makes a new copy of everything and puts it in a new folder. So the reason why you don't want to use it all the time is because it will destroy your hard drive space. It's going to eat it up. You're going to have a terabyte drive, and if you use this all the time with these big files, in a week you're going to be done with that terabyte drive. You're going to be full. You're going to need to buy a new terabyte drive. Don't do that. Please don't do that. I've seen students do that before because they get confused about when to use it, when not to use it. So I will try to keep tabs on you from time to time, making sure that you're not using it all the time. But please be aware, it's really important, but don't use it all the time. So I'm just going to read this for you. When you're using multiple hard drives for samples and audio files, data can get scattered around your devices. Before you send your session to someone, it's important to make sure that everything is collected in one location. Different DAWs have separate names for this. So in Pro Tools, it's called Save, Copy, In. In Ableton Live, it's called Collect All and Save. And in Logic, it's called Consolidate. Save, Copy, In, the session folder. Audio files can live in many different places in your studio. So here's my session folder. We talked about this earlier. This is my main session folder. And I can have audio files in here. I can have other locations on my computer, like samples, folders, stuff like that. I can have folders in there. I can also have external hard drives connected up to my computer, and they can live in those places as well. The problem is, if I have an external hard drive connected up to my computer, and then I turn it off, well, Pro Tools can no longer access that audio. It's gone. As far as the computer is concerned, it's just gone. It's just not there anymore. So Pro Tools won't be able to find it, and if it can't find it, it can't play it back for you. So everything is you're not gonna hear anything. It's gonna be all wrong. So what we need to do is use Save, Copy, In, and this changes depending on your DAW. So I wrote in here Collect All and Save just to illustrate that it's different between the DAWs, but it's all basically the same concept. It grabs all those scattered files and puts them in one location. So if you use Save, Copy, In, it gets everything and it makes a new copy and it puts it in one location. So all those files that were in all these different locations on your computer, it's going to make a copy and bring them into your audio files folder. It doesn't move them, it makes a copy. That's really important. So if I have a file on my external hard drive, it's still on my external hard drive. If I have a file that's in my samples folder in my computer, it's still in my samples folder in my computer. It doesn't change, okay? Then when you if you want to give that folder to somebody, you zip the entire folder with everything in it and send that to your friend. Now, this is so important. This is like one of the most important things you're going to learn, because this is something you're going to be using with me over and over and over again. And you're going to get really sick of hearing me complain about this if you're not doing it right. If you're doing it right, it's going to be great. We're going to be having, unicorns and, hanging out in like fields of daisies and floating through clouds, whatever. I don't know what you like to do in your free time, but if you don't do this, it's going to be a lot of, okay, you need to resubmit that. Okay, you need to resubmit that. And I'd rather be like, yeah, we're partying, it's amazing, right? Instead of, can you please submit that correctly? Can you please submit it? I can't hear anything, right? Which would you rather have? Would you rather have Party Tony, or Tony? Which one do you want? It's your choice. All right. So that is everything there. We've kind of gone through this stuff quick. There's a lot of questions, I'm sure, but they will be answered. You just gotta keep coming here, keep coming to class, keep coming to school, keep watching the videos, and you're gonna learn all this stuff. Because today is like the title suggests, it's just an introduction to stuff. So I'm gonna go ahead and stop the recording right now.